Hi, and welcome back to Politodoxy. I'm your host, Aaron Friedman. Today we have a guest that was actually on the ground. Meanwhile, Trump was shot at the rally. And I think it's a very important subject to be talking about. This is something that we can't just let die out. Excuse the pun, but this is not something that we can let just die out the story as if nothing happened and as if this is the way of the course of normal politics. It's the new normal, as they say, the new world order, as the others would say. So this is absolutely something that needs to be talked about and thoroughly talked about. And as I said in my previous episode, today, as a matter of fact, that has been uploaded already. So if you guys want to check out that, you can check out that. That's my own opinions on the matter, is that no matter whatever happens, we're not going to get the full story. Anybody who's saying we should get the full story of what happened, I'm saying it's not going to happen. The FBI is not going to give you the full story. All I'm saying is let's focus on whatever we can get. We're not going to get the full story. Anybody who says we should get it, that is, those guys are living in a fantasy world where we should be able to have sprinkles and lollipops rain from the sky. We're not going to get that. What we can focus on is on the things that we can try to get the whatever bits and pieces of information, any nuggets of information that we can, and build a narrative, a cohesive and coherent narrative, of course. This is all about narrative building. I know we're not allowed to say that this is about narrative building, but it is. So our guest today is Theo
Dakiak.
Dakiak. Okay, so you were there, so we will talk about whatever happened there, because and whatever you're not comfortable with. No problem, because I know this is a traumatic event. I mean, it's not every day that people are. I mean, unless you live in Chicago, it's not every day that you see people get shot. Especially not every day that you see the president get shot at. So this is pretty traumatic. So whatever you don't want to talk about, we'll just skip that. So first above all else, how are you holding up? Are you fine? Are you have you gathered yourself?
I'm okay. I think I'm doing okay. I'm not physically harmed at all, but since the shooting yesterday, I only slept about 2 hours last night, and I've been very stressed. But I know that I'm okay and that I will be fine, and so I'm ready to tell that story.
Okay, that's good. That is good. And also, God bless that, you feel good. God bless Donald Trump for just getting, clipped in the ear. That's it. God bless that it wasn't worse than this. And, what really bothers me, and I know that this may be news to you, but I would still like to bring this up. So that one person was shot, Corey. I'm sorry, I forget his last name. He was shot and killed, protecting his family. That guy is absolutely a hero for protecting his family. So I would like to say about today. I don't know if you know this, but Destiny held today with what's her name, Kat something. I don't remember her name. Anyway, on Twitter, a discussion about 5,000. At some point, there were 14,000 people, and then it ran back down to 7,000 people. So that's still pretty big numbers in the Twitter space talked about. And he was utterly unhinged. I mean, Destiny was completely unhinged. So I don't know if you know this. So what he talked about is the person that was shot, Corey, that he has no sympathy for that person that was shot and killed. And for anybody else who would have been shot and killed, or how many people would have been shot and killed, because those people are for a person such as known as Donald Trump, who incited an insurrection. I'm glad that he didn't do what so many other Democrats did and called it an insurrection. He actually called it an insurrection. So good for him that he didn't do the tongue twister thing. But yeah, he was no sympathy whatsoever for anybody who is supporting Donald Trump because he incited an insurrection, and doesn't care for Corey and his family. So I quipped back, and I wasn't not on the Twitter space. And I posted this, and if he ever sees the post, he'll probably block me because he doesn't really have any argument back that the real reason why he doesn't feel any sympathy for a person that is now dead because he protected his family is because he did such a bang up job with his own family. We all know what he did with his wife. We all know Destiny what he did with his wife. So there's not too much to talk about that. So he did such a bang-up job with his own family that he would never experience the honor of being able to protect his own family, so he's disgusted by those who can. So, you got a nice cat there playing around. Yeah. Okay, so this is what I quip back at him, because he absolutely deserves this. Anybody who attacks family, the basic building block of society, is automatically an enemy of mine. So, but he is not the only one. He represents, as having, I don't remember, 400,000 followers. He represents a huge part of a lot of people who think that, okay, he deserves it. Anybody who gets shot at a Trump rally, well, they freaking deserve it. What do you say? You were there, so what do you have to say for somebody who and for those people who think that, you know what, you freaking deserve it?
Yeah, what a terrible thing to say. And I'm surprised he didn't have more sympathy for the innocent people whose lives were lost. People were just peacefully demonstrating, exercising their First Amendment rights, listening to Trump speak when they were attacked out of nowhere. Um, that absolutely deserves sympathy and should not be attacked.
Absolutely. Where were you at the time of the? Where were you? Meaning, in if you could locate for me an area, because we could see the. Were you on the side? Which side you were
Sure.
on? Were you behind Trump at any chance? At any point?
So I was in front of Trump. So thinking about Trump looking forward onto the crowd, he has about like 180 degrees of crowd around him, maybe a bit less. I would be on his far left, actually right to the edge of the barrier, which was kind of holding all of us in. Um, I was near where the shots landed. So there were these very large speakers, which were on forklifts, being lifted up into the air in order to project sound to the entire audience. I believe that the stray bullets hit the speaker because it collapsed onto the ground and let out white smoke.
So you were like, I mean, any more left and you would have been like in the line of fire, right? Any more left, that would mean that you would be more in the side of him, right? Am I
That's
getting the
right.
picture correctly? So you
That's
you
right.
were any more, and you would have been in this line of fire, and would have put you at even more in harm's way. What did you? And I know I already asked you this question on a Twitter space, but just for continuity of this space, of this interview, I would like to know, what did you feel at the time? What's the first emotions or feelings that you, when while realizing what was happening? What was the first thought?
At first, it was so confusing. We were just starting the speech with Trump. He had just thrown some figures onto his PowerPoint, and all of a sudden we hear pop, 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 and it sounds like so small. It sounds like a little firecracker or maybe a fireworks, but definitely not an AK. So that makes me think it must have been suppressed or something. But everyone is just extremely confused at first. We have no idea what's going on, and even President Trump is just standing there, just looking around, like, did anyone else just see that? Until all of a sudden, a Secret Service or someone yells, "Get down!" and all of us collapse down onto the ground.
Wow. And after realizing what just happened, what was your first? Were you in fight or flight response? What was your initial reaction to that?
Yeah, my first reaction was to lay on my friend and just cover her so that she wouldn't be shot by any of the bullets.
Well, that is first. That is very honorable of you to protect, a woman. That is a man's job to protect, regardless of situation. Man's job is to protect women. So at least chivalry is not completely dead. So that is good to hear. And that was your first thought was, okay, I got to do whatever I can while protecting myself as well as protecting people around me. Is that what you were thinking?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, that is honorable. And meanwhile, the shots were happening. The what after seeing Donald Trump standing back up, you realize, okay, seeing what has happened, what has transpired. You see the people are now getting back up after falling down to the ground. You see people getting back up, right? You look at Donald Trump and you see him air pumping his fist in the air and
Actually, I
saying,
couldn't see any of that, to be honest.
"No,
In the crowd,
wow."
it was so much more chaotic than it was on camera. So, I didn't get to see Trump stand back up. I just saw a bunch of Secret Service dogpile on him. And then we went down. We all stayed on the ground while whatever was going on went on. So I couldn't see any of the other shots. I only saw those first three, which hit the speaker near me. And then we just stayed on the ground until behind me I noticed the fence had been pulled open so that people could exit. And so we sort of ran away from where the action was happening, away from President Trump, and behind a truck for cover where we tried to figure out what was going on.
Okay, so while running out, were you still ducking, covering while running out, or were you just, or were you, or did you think, okay, now it's already safe to actually stand up and walk upright?
So it's very difficult to know what's going on, and nobody can exactly give you an all clear. So everyone is just sort of running chaotically. Um, but it didn't appear to be safe at that time. No.
Wow. And at the time, were you scared for your own life, or did you think that this is not happening? You know, it's sometimes people are when they put themselves in a mindset in times of danger that this is not happening right now. This is all just a scary dream. This is it's fine. It's good. We are fine. I just need to follow the orders, and everything would be fine. Or did you think that, oh my god, I could die right now?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a life or death situation. We were all panicked, and people were screaming. So definitely did not feel safe one bit.
Wow. So that is pretty traumatic for, I mean, traumatic is maybe just the least of it. Did you also feel any danger from being trampled? Because in such a, you're in a crowd, and bending downwards could also lead to that. Did you feel any
Yeah,
danger from that?
thank God the Secret Service acted so quickly, or the state troopers or whoever, opening that fence so that there were more ways for the crowd to escape. Because
Okay.
if they
Okay.
hadn't done that, there would have been a much larger risk of trampling. So
All
I
right.
really thank God for that.
Yeah, I mean, everything is controlled by God, so thank him for that. So that is good to hear. More on the shooting. After, yeah, everybody goes out into the, back into the field. Everybody, is trying to gather their thoughts on what happened. What were you thinking afterwards? That
Yeah, so I was hiding behind the truck, and all of a sudden, people are screaming that the president has been shot. And then I see someone being carted off to an ambulance behind me. And it's, a large white man who has like six people around him, all carrying him. And so my first thought was, is that the president? Was the president just shot? And so there are all these rumors flying around that the president had been shot, or that it had just grazed his ear, or that someone else had been shot. We had no idea what was going on. And to be honest, I figured out that the president was safe the same way that you did by pulling open my phone and seeing that the breaking story said that he was safe.
What were your first thoughts of, since finding out only later that the president was safe, at the time of thinking that the president might actually have been shot? What were your thoughts about it? That this could lead to, greater unrest, maybe even riots? Was that even an occurrence that, oh no, what is going to happen right now? Because
Yeah,
this is one of the main questions. This is one of the main things that I have been trying to point out. A lot of people have been trying to point out that we were a hair trigger away from creating the riots that the world has not seen since the time of I don't know when. This and not from the right, as far as I know, because the right, except from January 6th, which it's overblown as it is. But aside from that, the right doesn't do any rioting at all. So. But still, some bad actors, even within the right, could organize certain things. Was that even a thought that, oh no, what the hell is this going to lead to?
Yeah, I mean, the implications of shooting Trump would be absolutely massive. And of course, when I saw that person being carried off to the ambulance, I couldn't help but think, what is going to happen to like our republic if the leading presidential candidate is just suddenly murdered? Yeah, I mean, at this point, I can only guess as to what would happen if President Trump had died, but once I found out he was safe, I was so relieved.
That is, I mean, it is good. It's good that some memes, not funny ones, but there are a lot of types of memes. Funny ones, more ones that prove a point, other ones that just say facts and other things. Anyway, but one of the memes is basically God pushing Trump's head ever so slightly to turn it away from the bullet, so it only grazes his ear and saves him. So that meme speaks more than millions and millions of words on what could have happened, and thank God that it didn't. And we know exactly. And why did Donald Trump actually? What caused him to move his head? Do you remember at all? What was
Oh,
the thing
I
that was
wish.
going to
I
move?
think he was just swiveling to look at his own presentation, but I can't remember exactly what was going on every second. I wish I could, and I wish I had a perfect memory. But if you really want a clear vision of what Trump was doing during the shooting, I think some people set up their tripods, and the mainstream media has at least some decent exposures of that.
What I heard is that Donald Trump was. I mean, this could be easily verified. But I haven't looked this up. I just went with it because it just makes sense. Is that Donald Trump was just showing his presentation on the illegal immigration, and while that happened, he tilted his head ever so slightly, and that's why the bullet missed him. And I mean, it's quite poetic to see. I mean, in a tragic way, it's quite poetic to see Donald Trump, the person who brought back to the forefront the topic of immigration, is that the topic of immigration saved his life by moving his head so ever so slightly. So it's a tragic poetry, I guess you could say, to
Yeah,
see.
yeah. I mean, but it has deeper meaning. I totally understand what you're saying.
Yes. So let me ask you, how long have you been a Trump supporter?
Yeah, so I've supported Trump since he ran in 2016, but at that time I was not old enough to vote, so I would have been 17 years old then. But I've voted for Trump and the Republicans ever since.
And that's good to hear. That we need as so you're from Gen Z's generation. I'm from Gen Z's generation. In one way, how about we turn this conversation into a little bit more of the subject of Gen Z? Okay, so I think we have conclusively talked thoroughly about what happened on the shooting. So let's turn this conversation a little bit to a different topic, and if we need to go back to revisit the previous conversation, we'll do that. So, as being from Gen Z, I would like to know, what are your thoughts on seeing that Gen Z is becoming, from one side, it's becoming the most conservative, and on the other side, it's becoming the most liberal with regard to women. It's becoming the most liberal of generations with regarding to men. It's becoming the most conservative of generations. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, I'm very excited to see so many young men within Gen Z becoming more conservative and joining Trump's movement. But I do think there are definitely some concerns if all women are predominantly liberal while men are predominantly conservative. What I know is that typically people tend to prefer partners with the same political agenda. And so considering the gender imbalance, it becomes impossible to completely match all liberals with liberals and all conservatives with all conservatives. So, considering a much larger gender gap within political party affiliation, you're likely to see many more couples with a mismatch in political affiliation, and ultimately that could create a further wedge within romantic developments.
Yeah, some people asked me about if I would ever date a vegan. I mean, not me per se, but the question has been asked, and I've answered it even unsolicited, saying that yes, I would date a vegan, and that goes also to liberal and so and so, but only to convert them to being a carnivore. So I would say that men should seek out just women who are at least have their wits about them, even if they are liberal. I know the stereotypical crazy liberal leftist woman is out there. I know, but we're not talking about that type of woman. If you find that woman, run the hell away from that. But there are still liberal women who still have their wits about them. They're not crazy. They just think differently, and they just need a little push to the right. So if you find those women who actually are willing to have a conversation, I would say date them if they are pretty, if they're your type. You date them and you push them to the right. It's not that hard. Women will typically also they will typically go where how the man thinks. They typically respect authority. At one point, you need to earn it in a certain way, and sometimes you need to exert your authority. Of course, not violently. I know some people really like taking these kinds of conversations out of context, so I'm just covering the basis. But of course, not violently in any way. But sometimes men need to exert their authority, and women typically will respect that, and they would turn. So I would say, on that regard, I would say, if you find a woman that actually is, you could work with her, even if she's liberal, Just figure it out. Work on your skills and turn her conservative. It's not impossible. I would say that much. So, were you
Yeah,
saying
there are
something?
plenty of other reasons to date someone besides their political affiliation. So I think
Absolutely,
my
yeah.
original thought was perhaps too gloomy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's a whole host of issues or a whole host of reasons why to date somebody, and with time you always can persuade people. Just make sure you're not the one being persuaded. So, yeah. So you have turned. I mean, have you always been conservative, or was it only the 2016 election that turned you conservative?
Yeah, so I definitely became conservative. I before that had been liberal. But yes, it was the 2016 era which converted me.
So, and is your family conservative?
No, they are all left wing.
They're all left wing, but is there a mutual sense of respect? Is there like a problem with them having you being conservative, or is there like,
Um,
hey, politics, whatever? We're family, so that's number one.
yeah, I mean they'd prefer I was liberal, but it's
Yeah,
okay.
of course. I mean, I would expect that much. If somebody's liberal, they hope the other person is as well liberal. But the question is, if they, we would rather have you to be liberal, but we respect you the way you are. Is that the purveying the purveying
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay, that's good. That is good. Your family comes first, in my opinion. Politics is a distant, far away issue. Family always comes first, so that is good to hear. And in regards to the you being conservative, are your friends conservatives? Are you are you in touch? Do you have a lot of friends that are conservative?
Yeah, I do, but a lot of my friends, it just doesn't really matter. It doesn't come up. So as far as like church goes, that isn't something I will typically bring up. I mean, I so happen to bring it up today because I think it was such a challenge being involved in a mass shooting event. But yes, I typically try to keep church and politics more separate. But yeah, I think it's healthy to have some friends which are non-political.
Okay. Do you have liberal friends?
Yes.
Okay. Did they call you up and ask you and tell you, hey, are you okay? Did they
Oh yes,
even
for sure. Yeah, I think people checking in on me, it has nothing to do with agreeing with my politics. But I was very grateful to see friends and family reach out to me to make sure I was safe, and that meant a lot to
Okay,
me.
let me give you a little bit of advice and let you know that those are real friends. Those people who, even as being a liberal, if they called out to you and asked you, hey, are you okay? Just know that they are real friends because this climate in which we live in, I have seen it with my own eyes. People being ostracized out of their family and friends being, no, you like Trump, so therefore we can't be friends. So those liberal friends, just know they are, as far as this bit of information you gave me, they are real friends. Otherwise, they would be like, indifferent to it. They'll be like, "Oh, he's fine," so I don't really need to call him and ask him if he's fine. So them calling you, it actually does mean something, especially coming from a liberal. Just know that. Just understand that because I've seen it with my own two eyes. People who are being ostracized by their friends for years, and then suddenly out of nowhere, oh, we can't be friends anymore because you're a fan of Trump. Yeah, that actually happened. So just know that they are true friends. Whenever you have discussions with them, political or otherwise, just keep that in the back of your mind that they actually worry about you, and that is something that's it cannot be faked. It's not something that people are gonna fake. This is real. This is a real moment. Let's go back to the subject of the shooting. After the shooting, what were your thoughts about the assassination attempt? Were you thinking who did this? Do you have any opinions on? I
Yeah,
know you're
I had
I know
plenty
you're
of
not an expert
thoughts.
in this. I'm not an expert either, but I would like to know. Still, somebody who was there and witnessed it firsthand. Do you have any opinions on thinking who is the one responsible for this? Let's say FBI, CIA,
Yeah.
or do you have any opinions on that?
Yeah, I definitely had quite a few thoughts. I thought that it was ridiculous that a rooftop so close to a presidential candidate had not been secured. And I mean, to think that there was a blind spot which lasted so long that someone could crawl through there, set up their gun, and take a shot at the president is completely unacceptable. So there was a major, major lapse within security, quite obviously. But to think that even incompetence would be capable of something like this is a bit naive, to be honest. I think that there are deeper questions because this entire situation looks so suspicious. And I look forward to leadership within the Republican Party performing investigations into the events of yesterday.
Well, not to be a Debbie Downer, but I would like to just to tell you not to set your expectations to be too high. I do not find the Republicans asking the head of the Secret Service to testify before Congress as being anything more than just theater at this point, because whatever happened there, you're not going to get the full story, not from the CIA, FBI, and the Secret Service, especially considering that the head of the Secret Service is a leftist saying that we should have more women in the Secret Service, when I'm like, I don't want more women. I don't want more any of that thing. I want strong, capable men who could cover the president completely. We had women at the time working for the president, and they are smaller than the president. I cannot comprehend who the hell thought that this was okay. Why did the president even talk about this? He should have said that these women won't do because they're not as big as me. And typically when you are protecting somebody, you're supposed to be bigger or as big as the person protecting, because such a case, you should be able to cover them completely. But having these women who are smaller than President Trump, what are they going to do? Well, they're going to try to holster the gun, and this doesn't really work. They're going to run around disoriented, and they're going to run around scared, as we've seen from the videos. So this was a complete failure, and I don't think that the person who is now the head of the Secret Service is actually going to give us any straightforward answers, especially also considering that the Secret Service has been politicized, and I hate that word, but they have been politicized so much so that we don't, for some reason, the Biden administration doesn't want to give for RFK Jr. his Secret Service, because I don't know, he's not a serious person. Oh yeah, sure, he's not a serious person. You're losing in the polls, but he's not a serious person to be running against Donald Trump. He's the most serious person to run against Donald Trump, but yet here we are in this political climate. So I want to make sure that you set your expectations to appropriately
Realistic.
and
Yeah.
realistic standards. You're not going to get the full story. It's not going to happen. Anybody who wants to get the full story, just
Yeah.
wasting your time. You could get at least some parts of it. That is
Yeah.
something that is doable.
It's
You're
clear that
not
there were
go.
major issues within the security detail that need to be looked into. And as to whether we will get those answers from congressional committees, probably not, as you said, probably not. It's very difficult to just pull someone in front of Congress and get any serious answers out of them. The typical practice is, I do not recall, I don't know,
Yeah,
I
yep.
wasn't
That
there,
is
that was someone
more
else.
more or less. And by the way, frankly, I don't really care if it was negligence or deliberate, because we also have video of the Secret Service agents on top of the rooftop talking in their line of fire. They have the shooter ready to shoot him, and they're waiting. And I'm not sure. Maybe this is standard, because a lot of things that might seem weird to us are just standard, and they have the good reasons. Even though we're like, what the hell is this even about? And we're like, no, you don't understand this, and there's good reason. Although it would be nice to have some explanations for it, but I'm not going to jump to conclusions. But I still am saying, nonetheless, I'm still going to point out, hey, it's weird that the Secret Service waited until the first guy shot. They should have been the ones. They were already aiming at the guy, so they should have been the first one to take the
Yeah.
shot, but they didn't. So it's kind of weird. That is kind of weird.
They
Also,
had him
let's not
in their line of sight for so long, yet did not fire.
exactly. Furthermore, I would also like to point out that we also had the other people on the ground. They were talking to the cops. Hey, by the way, there's this guy on the roof. You might want to check that out. And they were, yeah, we're not really interested in that.
Eh.
What the hell is that about? So you see, those are the things those things really need answers, and I don't believe that we're really going to get that many answers, unless if we have journalists from Twitter and Twitter journalists, but they're actually doing the work instead of the other people. They're not the CNN. Let me ask you about this, by the way, since we already are on the subject. CNN comes out with an article with a headline saying that Trump trips or Trump falls, and the what do they call it again? The Secret Service runs and covers Trump after he falls. Did you see
Yeah,
that
I mean,
one?
I heard fall. I heard that aides rushed him off the stage. I heard that
Yeah,
Trump was surprised, startled by loud noises. But the reason they're doing this is so that Trump looks like Biden. So they are trying to make it seem that Trump has the same weaknesses Biden does. But the issue is he doesn't.
yeah. What were your thoughts about it? What does this make you feel? You were there. You know what happened. Your
Oh.
life was in danger. Trump's life was in immediate danger, and then you see headlines like, "Oh yeah, by the way, it wasn't that big of a deal because
He was
it was
startled by
just
loud
loud
noises.
noises."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was a
What
bit
what
more
does
than
that make
loud
you feel?
noises because the shots actually landed near me. So,
What does that
yeah,
make you
definitely
feel?
not accurate reporting.
Yeah, but what does that make you feel?
Well, definitely upsetting because innocent people lost their lives, and to pretend that nothing happened. I mean, if you need to reduce the amount of violence within this country and start reducing the temperature, we need to actually have an accurate picture of what happened.
I agree. I definitely agree. Well, the situation that we find ourselves in is absolutely atrocious, and we're never going to get the full story. We could get whatever we could, whatever bits of information we can. We should get our hands on them immediately and make sure that we get whatever part of the story we can, whatever part of the truth we can. We should. Those people who are responsible should be held responsible to the fullest extent of the law. And this DEI, as I call it, didn't earn it. That's what DEI stands for. This didn't earn it thing needs to end immediately, regardless if it. I know a lot of conservatives like now to turn that into the, oh, okay, so Trump was shot at, but let's talk about DEI. I'm like, that is a valid conversation to be held, okay? I'm not
But
discounting that. But the most important thing is the president was shot. People, what the hell are you doing trying to turn this into a DEI thing? This thing can potentially be CIA, FBI, and Secret Service
yeah.
controlled thing. This story could be connected to the intelligence. And by the way, so many of the other shooters were also connected to intelligence. So I'm like, why shouldn't we think of this way? We're allowed to conspiratorialize. We are allowed to talk about conspiracy theories as long as we understand they're just conspiracy theories. These are not conspiracy facts. We will go through the facts, find out what is truth, and then establish that and build that a coherent narrative based on that, so we can figure out what the actual truth is. But until that happens, we're allowed to theorize. And this word, for some reason it's a dirty word. It is not. You need to be able to talk about what happened. So this has been a good conversation with you and me. I'm glad that we could work this out, and I hope God bless you. I would like to know, I assume that you're also, for at least a week or so, you're still going to go around on Twitter, try to get your story out, to talk to people on Twitter Spaces, and I'm sure you want to talk about it a little more on Twitter. So where can people find you to talk about this?
Yeah, I'd love it if you could just follow me on my X account. That's at Theo Dekiak. And then that's TheoDequillacq. Yeah, feel free to follow me, DM me. I'd love to do any more podcasts. If anyone would like to hear my story, I'd love to answer those questions. And thank you so much for hosting me, Aaron, today.
Yeah, it was great hosting you. And for those who want to reach out to me, you can reach out to me at AaronPolitidoc on Twitter, or at politidocs@gmail.com on email, or on Instagram at Aaron Friedman. Thank you very much for listening to this episode. Please like, share, subscribe, leave 5 stars, follow, do all the things. You can also watch on Spotify. I know some people this is a surprise, but you can also watch this on Spotify, new thing video. So thank you, everybody, for listening to this episode. Please share. Most important thing you can do, and remember, my fellow radicals, stay political.